Aloha, ladies and gentlefolk. My name is Frenegades, and as I'm getting back into the groove of doing reviews, I figured, hey, why not do another review? Because I just did my Last of Us review earlier today as of recording this, so I'm going to upload this next week. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about one of my personal favorite games as a child, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. Do not ignore the thing down there. Let's just give you a good look of the cover real quick. Boom, there's the thing if you want to look at his ugly monstrous face. So yeah, one of my personal favorite childhood games. I've been playing this inconsistently since I was in like 3rd grade. So I was like 8 years old. What year was it? Had to have been like 2012. Yeah, it was like 2012 I first started playing this game. So yeah, I will be reviewing the sequel next week, but we're going to go ahead and go on to the original. Marvel Ultimate Alliance is an RPG superhero game that it was released by Raven Software and Activision in 2006 for the let's name the consoles real quick. Xbox 360, remastered on the Xbox One, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, remastered on the PlayStation 4, the Wii, the Nintendo DS, I think, the GameCube, the Game Boy Advance as well, and I think that's it. So that's about a total of 9 versions. Was it on Nintendo DS? I think it was. Let's just give it a quick Google real quick. Okay, as I'm looking into the platform sections, oh yeah, it was released on PSP as well. I forgot about that. And Windows. But it does not say Nintendo DS, but it does say the Game Boy Advance. So I was mistaken on that. Now, the game is segregated into different versions. So the original version, which is the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox version, that is not what I'm going to be reviewing. The PlayStation 2 and the Xbox version. Then there's the Xbox 360 version, which is what I'm going to be reviewing, and the PlayStation 2, not PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and the Wii version. All of them are similar, but not exactly alike. And then we have, oh yeah, and also the PS4 and Xbox One versions, which are also pretty much just remaster versions of this version. Like specifically this version, not the PS3 version. Now, yeah, as I said, they're similar, but not exactly alike. You know what I mean? So anyways, then there's the GameCube version. No, not GameCube. Game Boy Advance version. And then there's the PSP version. So, with that being said, it comes with this. Now, there's abundance of superheroes in this game, so let me run down the exclusive characters because back then you had exclusive characters. So, for the Xbox 360 and the PS3 versions, it includes Moon Knight and Colossus. For the PSP, it includes Captain Marvel, the original Marvel character, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Ronin. Not Clint Barton Ronin, but Echo Ronin. And then the Game Boy Advance. I keep saying GameCube. The Game Boy Advance version includes Captain Britain and Phoenix, and I believe Hawkeye as well. And then the Xbox 360 version specifically has a gold edition to the game, which includes 8 more characters. That includes Hawkeye, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, and who was the last one? It was, gotta remember, thinking, the Hulk. And then it includes Doctor Doom, Sabretooth, Venom, and Magneto. So 8 characters, the heroes and villains and all that good stuff. But anyways, let's get into the story and tell you my thoughts about it. So the whole story is based off of not based on anything, but the whole base of the story is the Masters of Evil are trying to take over the Earth. Basically, it's a big group of villains that are led by Doctor Doom, and you fight through a lot of them. The main threat, it starts off on the Helicarrier. You eventually fight Fin Fang Foom. After that, then because the Helicarrier's down, you use Stark Tower as a basis, and you're headed to the Omega base. I believe it was because of something about Dum Dum Dugan being in some type of trouble. So you head there, you help him out, and it eventually leads to MODOK. So after you defeat MODOK, then you're tasked to go to Atlantis to try to get Namor and the Atlanteans to help you out in this fight against the Masters of Evil. But it turns out Namor had his kingdom taken over, and he is in critical condition, and the kingdom was taken over by villains Atuma and Tiger Shark. Now, I don't know if they're a gay couple or father and son or just partners in crime or whatever. Me, I probably assumed that they were gay, but I don't know. Maybe, no, actually, I think it's probably just a servant and master kind of dynamic. I don't know. I don't think Marvel was bold enough to do that in video games in 2006. So, I mean, they'd probably be bold enough to do it today, but hey, I don't know. But anyways, you deal with the Atuma and Tiger Shark, and then you have to go ahead and deal with the Kraken. And then after you deal with the Kraken, you see Mandarin. You go over to Mandarin's palace all the way out in China. Mandarin turns out to not be in the Masters of Evil because he tried to take leadership. The Mandarin you saw at Atlantis turns out to be Loki, but you end up having to deal with the Masters of Evil kidnapping 2 X-Men. Those being Phoenix, Jean Grey, and Nightcrawler. So, with that being said, you head over to the Sanctum Sanctorium with Doctor Strange because you end up saving him in Mandarin's palace, and he offers you headquarters. So with that, he uses his Eye of Agamotto to transport you to Castle Doom, but Castle Doom turns out to not be Castle Doom, and it turns out to be Murder World. You end up finding Jean Grey, you fight her, you fight her for a little bit, and then you go on to fight her again in Murder World. Well, I mean, you're in Murder World, but the first boss fight was in Castle Doom, and then the second boss fight is in Murder World. So after you end up beating Jean Grey, you end up saving her from a game of Pitfall, because she gets transported. She was mind controlled. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, she was mind controlled, which is why you end up fighting her. Then she gets transported into an arcade game. You play Pitfall, you save her, and then you go ahead and do some puzzles and stuff like that, and deal with Arcade, who is the owner, creator of Murder World. And Nightcrawler turns out to be in Mephisto's realm, which is Marvel's version of hell. So you go there, you find Nightcrawler, you fight, you go there, you progress through the level, you find Mephisto's son, Blackheart, you defeat him, and you're dealt with a dilemma. You're dealt with a dilemma that he gives you after that, which is because they captured Jean Grey again. And you have to choose between saving Nightcrawler or Jean Grey. Whoever you choose to save, goes back. Whoever you don't save falls into the eternity vortex, I believe it's called. And then you go on to fight Mephisto. Now, whoever you didn't save comes back as a clone created by Mephisto and fights you. But eventually, depending on how you do this, you can either defeat Mephisto yourself, or you can go ahead and try to free them. Their statues surrounded by the boss fight. You can free the statues, and then they'll end up sacrificing themselves to take down Mephisto. After that, you find out that Asgard is having trouble, and this is kind of where I get to the worst part of the game. Now, it's not bad. I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's just forgettable to me, because there's a lot of chaos going down in Asgard, but to the best of my memory, you're basically trying to free Asgardian warriors, like Heimdall and Tyr, and I think Sif. I don't remember, to be honest, like a bunch of the characters, but you end up fighting Enchantress and Executioner, and you end up fighting Loki as well. Right? Yeah, you end up fighting Loki as well, which leads into Doctor Doom making an appearance and presumably killing you. But it turns out the Watcher Uatu ends up snapping, taking you, teleporting you out of that. And now you're on the blue side of the moon where the Inhumans are. Now you have 2 missions to deal with that. The first mission is to get 2 things. Now, I don't remember what those 2 things were. I think one of them was called the Muonic Inducer, and I think the other one was called the Ultimate Nullifier. I don't know how I remember that off the top of my head, but they just came by. I think the Muonic Inducer was actually something from Act 5, but, because right now we're in Act 4, we'll talk about that. So, yeah. Well, the first mission was dealing with the Shi'ar Empire, which are friends of the X-Men. You go there to ask Princess Lilandra for help, But it turns out her kingdom had been taken over by her sister Deathbird. So you deal with the people that are her guards, the like Gladiator and Neutron and Hussar. You deal with characters like that, and then you end up fighting Deathbird. Now, for some reason, Deathbird's boss fight isn't the end of the level. It's like the penultimate part of the level, because you have to save Lilandra. Well, not save Lilandra. That's an optional thing. I'll get into that further a little bit later. But you have to basically save the whole like kingdom from blowing up, because she ends up sending bombs there, rigged to explode. So once you do that, she runs away, and now you are all good. So then the next mission for the for the Inhumans is to stop Galactus from what is it? Stop Galactus from the no, not stop Galactus, but go to the Scroll World to ask for help. And it turns out that they're being invaded by Galactus to eat their planet. So you have to go ahead and defeat Galactus, as well as yeah, you have to go ahead and defeat Galactus. So once you do that, now you're ready to go back to Earth, because you have the things you need, and you go back to Earth. Doctor Doom has corrupted the Earth in his own image, as well as corrupting different characters, different heroes. You go through them, you mow them down, and you get into the final boss fight with Doctor Doom and his version of the Fantastic Four. You win. Doctor Doom is being eternally punished by Odin, because he ends up stealing Odin's powers, and that's it. Now the gameplay is pretty nice. Now the gameplay is also pretty unusual, because let's grab the controller. The gameplay is kind of unusual because it is an RPG game. It kind of has to play a little differently. Now, when I say I'm talking about like the typical 4 buttons, right? So you often press X to attack, maybe B to heavy attack, A to jump, and Y to whatever. I don't know. But A attack, X grab, B jump. B is to do heavy moves, and Y is to jump. So it's pretty unusual. In fact, like when I first started playing more video games outside of this, I was kind of confused as to why I was pressing X to hit instead of A. But hey, it is what it is. The game has a large variety of characters that you can unlock. Like, take for example, throughout the story, you can unlock characters like Doctor Strange. You can unlock Blade. You can unlock who else do you unlock? Let me look at this. I think, Nick Fury, if you beat the story. Then you have other characters you can unlock through miscellaneous stuff. Black Panther and Daredevil are unlocked through getting each of their action figures throughout the game. And then there's Nick Fury. No, not Nick Fury. Silver Surfer, who you unlock when you get all of the comic book missions. Which, yes, there are simulator missions based on characters. They basically isolate the specific character into a simulator mission where they go and go through a map, defeat enemies, and they have a mini boss. Now, there are 3 different types of bosses, I would say. There's mini bosses, which are the characters you would see. They don't get their own concept art. They appear kind of in the middle of a level. This is characters like Radioactive Man and Winter Soldier, Hussar, Neutron, Mysterio, Scorpion, Lizard, characters like that. For some reason, Ultron and Baron Mordo, who were big parts of the Masters of Evil, like they were appearing in all the cutscenes for them. They're mini bosses for some reason, but it is what it is. The minor bosses are the characters that don't have much bearing to the story. They appear in the middle section of the whole like mission that you're on. Characters like Atuma and Tiger Shark, kind of, but I'm gonna say Blackheart. Then you have who else? Enchantress and Executioner, Titanus in Act 4, and who else? Gladiator as well. So yeah, and then you have the major bosses, the ones that appear at the end of the level. So you also have like Mandarin, MODOK, Doctor Doom, Loki. They appear at the end of it, especially at the end of the act. These are some really good boss characters, though. I will say about that. The boss fights, especially like the major boss fights, major and minor boss fights, are something unique. They all bring something to the table. Like, I'm not gonna explain all of them, but some of my favorite ones are like the Grey Gargoyle, who touches you and you turn to stone. Doctor Doom's whole boss fight ends up turning into like a whole pinball fight, like because in his boss fight you end up grabbing some of his power and taking it, and now you're as strong as him. You're kind of as strong as him, and every time somebody lays a punch, it's just you go flying around the whole area just like a pinball, and you do this while you're fighting. You're doing this while you're fighting infinitely spawning dark Fantastic Four characters, and it's kind of funny. But are there any flaws of this game, if I'm being honest? Yeah. I'm not going to specifically talk about the graphics. I mean, the graphics have aged like milk, though. I will say about that. Like, because, wow. Like, there were games that looked better than this already at that point. And, in 2006. Can I name any? I'd probably say, like, SmackDown versus Raw 2007. That's, like, the first game I could think of, like, right off the top of my head that came out in 2006. I think a Ratchet and Clank game come out? No, it didn't. Um, but yeah, the graphics age like milk. But the cinematics, not the cutscenes, the cinematics, those still hold up really well. So yeah. Boss fights. Are there any boss fights that I actively don't like? I hate Mandarin's boss fight. I think that's the one boss fight that I hate the most because it's a kind of confusing to explain, right? Without at least showing you. I do have a video up, and you can see what I mean by the boss fight being kind of confusing. It is a little confusing to explain. The cosmetics also, I won't say they don't matter, but they don't push that narrative of like the cosmetics, like not necessarily the costumes and stuff like that, because characters can unlock different costumes. Every character can unlock 3 costumes, with the exception of Moon Knight, who only has 2, and with the exception of Silver Surfer, because all of his costumes are the exact same for some reason. I mean, then again, I don't think Silver Surfer has any, unique designs outside. I mean, at least around 2006. I don't know, but yeah, characters have different powers. They have different abilities, different animations that are quite unique to them. They have different conversations with not just only other heroes that you walk around with your headquarters with, but also different villains like, Spider-Man and Mysterio. You have Iron Man and the Crimson Dynamo, even with the minor bosses and the major bosses like Doctor Doom with himself, like Iceman and Gladiator, Wolverine and Deathbird, Luke Cage and Arcade, as well as Captain America and Arcade. So yeah, and as well as the extensive roster, there's like 30 heroes, as you can see right here. There's quite a few heroes, some known, some unknown. Like you have Elektra right here, you got Wolverine, Thor. This is Ultimate Thor, if you didn't know that. This is The Thing. There's Ghost Rider, Captain America, Iron Man, and then obviously you got Spider-Man on the forefront. And then back here you got Blade as well, and I think that's Invisible Woman, and that's Blade as well. Deadpool. So yeah, it's a pretty good roster. You have different teams that you can make up, different combinations of teams. Sometimes you have Raven Software making up teams because they all have something in common, like agile warriors or supernatural characters adding up together, or characters that are like heat based, so like Scorchers, weapon specialists, and natural, I think they're called natural disasters or natural elements, something like that, or elementalists, I don't remember. Natural leaders. But you also have a team that was called the Raven Ultimates, which includes characters that are that are favorites of the Raven Software team, like Deadpool, Iceman, Colossus, Silver Surfer, Invisible Woman, The Thing, Moon Knight. You also have the DLC characters that add teams. Like if you add all 4 of the heroes, they're called the Shaba Ultimates, and if you add all the 4 villains, they're called the Rogues Gallery. So yeah, I think this game is really good. It didn't age the best. yeah, it didn't really age the best. I do commend them also for the concept art because the concept art is so mid 2000s. Is actually kind of funny, but it's mid 2000s in a good way. I do enjoy this game. Childhood game. Maybe there's some bias behind this. Hey, it is what it is. But Ultimate Alliance, as you know, as weird their controls are, the graphics are pretty cool. Yeah, it says, hold on, let me look at this. It says, amazing realistic graphics. Y'all niggas was lying. Y'all niggas was lying. But, anyways, great game. Great game. I would definitely recommend it. I would definitely recommend it if you're into superhero games. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you're a casual gamer, but if you're into superhero games, I definitely recommend it. Do I think this game is overrated, underrated, or correctly rated? It's underrated. Marvel's Ultimate Alliance gets an 8.5 out of 10. I'll see you guys next week for another review. I'm going to be reviewing its sequel next week. So hope y'all have a blessed day. I'm out. Jesus loves you. Goodbye.